Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about using Vampire the Masquerade 1994 collectible card game cards for inspiring your Dungeons& and Dragons 5th edition non-player characters. So I'm going to just show you how this works. These characters that we're looking at today, they're from a specific vampire clan. These are all like essentially vampire masters, and specifically the clan these guys are from is the Ventru. They're the most old-fashioned of the clans. The Ventru are sophisticates who move in the highest social and political circles. They are frequently proficient in the disciplines of dominate, fortitude, and presence. Right. So one of the things that I really love about these cards is they immediately bring to mind a story, right? The other thing it can do is they can give us names to use within Dungeons and Dragons. Sometimes Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it does not, right? So what happens when if you go ahead and get, as I'm suggesting you should, 100, 500, 1,000 of these cards for anywhere between like 20, 50, $100, right? Because these are not expensive. These are very, very affordable. You can buy them in large lots on eBay and different places. You can get different names, right? So one, look at these names. Let's talk about these names for a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game. So here we have Jazz Wentworth, right? Well, is that a help? Is any of those helpful for 5th edition? Absolutely not. None. Jazz and Wentworth are both useless, right? But here's what is useful: Aswen, right? So Azwen, Aswen, right? So if you go forward, if you go forward and you find names on these cards that you can't use, just kind of mix the syllables that are in there. Let's see if we can do it with Lucia Passiola, right? You can use Patchy, right? So Patchy could be a name for there. Or Usiapa, right? Could be another unusual fantasy-based name. Melissa, you can't really use that. You could use Elissa, and you could use Arton, right? All those. But check this out. These all also have names on the bottom, right? So Sandra is a perfectly acceptable 5th edition name. McDougal you can absolutely use as, like a bartender or a woodcutter that they might meet. And then at the bottom you have Melissa Benson. You can use actually. So yep, no, that one doesn't work. There's really nothing there. But overall, we had there's 3 cards here, and we came out with like 5 different names. So get adept at making names on the fly, at just grabbing words and pulling syllables out. Because if you think this is not important, it's ridiculously important. It is very important to get very fast at making up names on the fly, because you're going to have 10, like literally 5 to 15 different NPCs that are just going to show up when you need them in your game. And if you are not good at making names, it makes you a truly suck DM. The worst DMs do not name player characters, or they immediately shunt their players out by saying, "Oh, this guy's named Bob the bartender," and then the player characters fall in love with Bob. And every time that name is out, you're saying, "Oh, hey, listen, my game isn't like a super dope, brilliantly illustrated story like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. This is just some piece of trash that I threw together in 5 minutes for you last time." Get good at making names. The best dungeon masters make names on the fly. Okay, so now let's talk about these three images. What ideas do they come up for? So for Aswen, right, I would describe him as a young man that they encounter, in the town, and you see that bold stare that's coming back from him, right? That makes him an adventurer, right? And so Aswen, I would have Aswen be a fighter. I would probably a 4th to 6th level fighter that they would encounter coming out of a city, right? And when he comes out, he'll be on his horse, and your PC adventurers are coming in. And do you see how like cold his stare is? How unsmiling he is? Well, when he rides out of the city on his horse, they're going to be in his way, right? And he's going to say, "Move out of the way." And when they don't, he's going to jump off his horse and immediately try to murder them with his sword, right? So for the effrontery of not moving out of his way as he leaves the town, right? So, and that's perfectly acceptable, and you can build story around him, because people would then say, hey, why was he so aggressive when he was leaving, right? And and the other thing that I want to encourage you to is, I definitely think you should be walking into your games with a index card worth of content, right? And the rest should come out of the energy and the flow of your own ideas and your players' ideas. And the reason why we do this is so we don't railroad. We are there to see what happens, right? We're not bringing in these super ornate stories, right? We have an idea of what's going on in our world, but it shouldn't be so constrained that there's no room for the collaborative short storytelling that needs to happen. So let's talk about Pachi here, right? So Pachi, she's I would say she's between like 25, 30 years old, and I would put her into basically I would have the player characters encounter her as a very serious, talented sorceress, right? And basically, when she comes across them, she will immediately across them in essentially like a foresty area. She will simply bypass them, right, and encounter and try to go around them. If the player characters encounter her, she will do everything she can not to speak to them, to leave them as quickly as possible. She is I would make her probably an 8th to 10th level sorceress, and she's incredibly dedicated to doing a good job with her spells and building out her known spells and learning new spells, right? But also she's also haunted by the idea that all of this comes from her bloodline, because with sorcerers they don't really learn the way wizards do. And all of this comes from kind of a haunted history. So what is her history? What does she? And the reality is, of course, she has a strong history with her mother, who also had a strong, powerful bloodline, but struggled with having that power, right? Last, we have a character, and this Melissa Barton character. So I would call her Lady Arton, right? And of course, they'll encounter her at a castle when they go there. And Lady Arton is there in the court, right, with the Duke, but the Duchess is gone, and the Duchess hasn't returned for 3 months. So what is Lady Arton doing there? And whenever the characters see her, she's always near the Duke, always speaking to the Duke. And there's this question of what happened to the Duchess, right? So here we have 3 Vampire the Masquerade cards that are from 1994, but just looking at them in literally 8 minutes, we have come together with 3 unique, really powerful catapult characters who can kind of catapult our story forward. So let me thank you very much for letting me share this with you today. I'm really curious of your ideas. Did I miss any narrative juice that is here on the cards that I didn't pull into my game? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.